Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
Oh, hello, everybody. If you are new to Talking About the Big Stuff and you just randomly saw us pop up, somewhere online and decided to follow the stream, thank you. Please, if you're watching on Facebook, like the Facebook page. If you're watching on YouTube, like the channel. And remember, you can always listen to this later on if you want, if you prefer to check it out while you're driving or whatever. So, without further ado, Matthew, what is our topic for this evening?
Our topic is one of the big stuffs. I wanted
The
to talk
biggest of the
about
big.
maybe I I wanted to talk about the meaning of life. Just a little topic.
Yeah. So, just to talk about the topic itself for a second.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about the topic of the meaning of life more than I want to talk about the meaning of life itself.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to somebody at work today, and I was like, "Are you going to check out the stream tonight?" And he was like, "What's the topic?" And I said, "The meaning of life." And I'm pretty sure Matthew will make at least one Monty Python joke. And then I went back into the notes, and I had already seen your Monty Python joke, and I hadn't got it. And when I went back in, I was like, "Oh," because Matthew put in our notes for what we were going to talk about today. He put in there, "Is it better than the Holy Grail?" And I think the answer to that question is no. I think Meaning of Life is my least favorite of the three. But I'm a Life of Brian fan. I think Life of Brian's the best.
I think Meaning of Life is the easiest transition from Monty Python's Flying Circus into the movies because it's the most like an episode of Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Yeah, and it's got some great songs.
So okay, I'll give you a father-son moment from Meaning of Life that tells a lot about my upbringing. I was a teen when it came out, and I don't know if I had it on video or if it was on a streaming service at the time, which would have been HBO at the time because it was the only one. But I watched it it was video because I watched it with my parents. I set out to watch it with my parents, and there's the scene where the guy is in the restaurant and he keeps eating food and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and finally explodes and his organs are exploding. And I'm like, this is the point where my parents are going to freak and make me turn this off. And my father goes, pause this. And I pause it. He goes, is the whole movie like this? And I said, well, I mean, it's absurdist comedy. Yeah. And he goes, okay, rewind that shit. I want to see that again.
Nice.
And I was like, yeah, there you go. And that's why I am the way I am.
I started watching the movie. I have never made it through all the way. I watched it a little ways through with my mother, and because my mom likes comedy, but I think I can't remember what it was, but something made me go,
Every sperm is sacred, perhaps? The one that the anti-Catholic scene?
I don't think she cared about that. I don't think it was that. Was there nudity in the movie?
I don't remember offhand, but I mean, when they had nudity, it was always like, just for a couple of seconds if they did. It was never a big part of their stuff.
Every sperm is sacred, though, is a really good part of tonight's topic, especially when I listened to today's Scathing Atheist, and they talked about how quite literally now every sperm is sacred in Alabama. So
yeah, eggs or chickens.
Yeah, and
yeah.
If you.
So the meaning of life. What I wanted to talk about at meaning of life was not what is the meaning of life, but is there a meaning of life, and do we need there to be a meaning of life?
Okay, great. So
we're
revisiting the nihilism episode, then, I suppose.
I mean, it depends on your answer.
Yeah. So I did not come at it that way. I was when I was prepping for tonight, I was thinking of. So my answer that I came up with to what is the meaning of life is about as douchey as you can get. So buckle up.
So on brand.
I think that the search for the meaning of life is the meaning of life. Douchey, right?
Wow, dude! Like, so Goofy is a dog. It's like Goofy is a dog, but he has Pluto, who's a dog.
Apparently, apparently Goofy's not a dog. I heard recently.
Yeah, I saw a headline. I didn't go to the clickbait and follow through and see what it was.
This retconning is fucking crazy. No, I think that I just think that like so
you're the Buddha. Like at
sure.
the point that you reach enlightenment and you know what the meaning of life is, that's when you die, because that's your life's mission is to find out, and when you find out, when you reach enlightenment, that's when you die.
Okay, that makes sense.
That would be a very Buddhist kind of approach to the meaning of life.
Yeah. So there's a quote, and I forget where I heard the quote. Maybe we can Google it and figure it out. But the quote that it was, "Let us be more concerned with the happiness of pursuit than the pursuit of happiness," and I've really kind of thought about that a lot over the last decade or so. As you know, like I mean, I think that to some extent, the idea of pursuing stuff um, is is overly capitalistic, but like I think that there is, if we don't look at it in a capitalistic way, we don't look at it pursuing goods and things, but like we look at
I think the
pursuing
word
knowledge,
pursuing has capitalistic overtones. If it
right,
was a
right,
search or a quest, it wouldn't be such a
right,
capitalistic sounding
exactly.
expression. I mean,
So
because that was playing on the pursuit of happiness, which is purely a capitalist pursuit. So
right, I agree. So that was my thoughts. So that's I think that those two answers are kind of tied together as far as like I, I I think that to have some kind of like end of the road concept for this is the strict definition of the meaning of life or the goal of life or whatever kind of defeats the purpose. And it's really, we there's a lot of cliches. It's about the journey, not the destination, but like I do think that there is a truth to those cliches, and that I think we have to concern ourselves with that in our detangling of the meaning of life.
see, my biggest problem with the meaning of life is the
Sure.
because I think there can be, it's like serial monogamy. It could be lots of meanings of life, and it could be at different stages of your life. The meaning for your life is different, and that can change and grow or just be done with. Like, meaning of my life was finding my life mate. Found her, check. Then different meaning as we build life together, and different meaning as we're parents of young children, and as we're parents of adults, and as the different parts of your life give life meaning without life needing to have a meaning. Like, it's not a riddle to be solved for me,
Right.
or at least not a riddle with one answer.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Let me look
So,
at. Let me.
but within that, what are the different meanings that you can have, or in your search, what are the different milestones that make life meaningful and give it a level of meaning?
Sure. I'm referring to the notes. We have a tendency to just like, okay, we've got this thing that should take us an hour, and it ends up taking us 10 minutes, and we're all wrapped up. But like, let's see. Oh, I hit all my notes.
Mine were questions for topics of discussion.
Yeah. I like your explanation. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. But I want to add to it and say that I think that it can be easy to get bogged down in small incremental ones. For example, you mentioned you find your soul, you find your person, then you find I didn't say
It
I
took
didn't say
me
soulmate.
decades.
You find your person, then and I'm saying yours aren't small, yours aren't quick. But I think that some people it's like, okay, you find the person, you get married, you buy a house, you have a kid, you have a second kid, you get a dog, and like it's every 2 years.
I feel like you're writing the outline of a 70s rock anthem.
I just think that becomes, I think that it has, especially maybe suburban middle class America that has become the thing. That it's becoming like a cadence that we've kind of looked at it, and each thing is the the next big meaning. Yours are much more nebulous, becoming a parent of a and it's not.
And then for me, I mean, I don't think those are true means. I don't think anyone else needs to find a spouse or needs to
Sure.
be a parent. I mean, I'm just saying. And it was more like, yeah, and it wasn't like I need to have children now as much as once I had children, that was the meaning. That was what gave my life meaning once I had them, because that became the focus. Because that's once you take on that responsibility, that's your job.
Right. Yeah. And I think that you've got like, for example, I think I have parallel things going on right now, because obviously I'm a husband and a parent, and like, and those are goals that to become those things were goals. Now being those things is its own goal, and you never you never get to the finish line. Well,
I
hopefully.
mean, you have to finish at least once if you're going to be a parent.
It's called premature. No. But then in addition to like the fact that like, being a parent is a constant pursuit, and being a spouse, if you're being a spouse correctly, it's a constant thing. It's not a, well, we got married, now we're married thing. It's more of a, okay, I want to be there for you during, you know, you're going through a hard time, and I need you right now because I'm going through a hard time. I'm going to back you up in your career. I'm going to help you as you try to balance, having our kid
Checkbooks.
with having a job. And so it becomes, every one of these things there, this isn't a, the marriage isn't the finish line. The birth of your kid's not the finish line. They're
I mean,
just,
death is the finish line. I mean, I think that
yeah,
we should be able to agree on. Well,
right.
because we
But
don't believe in an afterlife, so death is the finish line.
right. But my point being,
But
like,
you can leave
I,
things to extend past the finish line.
yeah, no, for you and I, death is the finish line. Well, I think for everybody, death is the finish line. But for you and I, we acknowledge death is the finish line. But then I think there's also there's the the side, like, the concurrent stuff. So like this, Chocolate Diamond Media is one of my things that I want. Like, I've been dreaming of being a filmmaker and a writer since I was like 12, maybe 11, 12 years old. Like, this has been my dream to do these things. And so this is becoming part of that, you know goal of life. Meaning of life is to try to pursue my own artistic endeavors. I think that, like, if you look at your family, for example, I think that between Madhavi and Leah, like, it's very clear that they're, whether it's their meaning of life or it's just a huge passion of their life, they've got their activism. And I think that that's, something that I'm starting to, I am starting, Alex and I went, for the audience who can't see Alex, Alex is our producer. Alex is also my coworker. Alex and I went and we volunteered at Oak City Cares last week, on the day that we would have recorded if you hadn't been in Barcelona. And we went and we volunteered there as part of work, with work. And I had never volunteered for anything before. And
Cool.
I think I've never participated in like any kind of nonprofit or charity. And I told a couple people that, and they were like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was, like, I know that when I was graduating high school, we had to do service hours, and for a lot of people that was volunteering. For me, my service hours that I ended up doing was just like I vacuumed the church my mom worked at every day after they, because Catholics have like a rosary mass for old people every day. So
Oh, and
like,
their skin flakes off and stuff, so you got to
yeah.
vacuum.
But so you go vacuum, or you refix the booklets, or there's a whole bunch of things you do. So that was what I did, but that's not really, I don't really consider that volunteering.
Yeah, well, there's a difference in volunteering for the organization that does charity work. Because you volunteered for TFS, you've come and videotaped our things, you've done volunteer,
Sure.
but that was helping our organization, not going on one of our service things, like to the food
Right.
bank and volunteering for the world.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we got to this Oak City Cares, and this is something that I haven't talked about really on the podcast. I don't know that I've ever mentioned it to you at all, Matthew, but like I've often told Sarah, especially since moving down here, because there's so much more homeless people here than what I see when I lived in Massachusetts, and I used to say like, oh, if I ever get rich, I would, I had some ideas as to how I would try to help the homeless, and they obviously, Oak City Cares does not have the funding, obviously, that I was talking about. If I won the lottery, how I would go crazy, helping, building a skyscraper to house homeless people and help them get, some kind of housing and stuff. But Oak City Cares is doing amazing work, and I was like on borderline emotional when we got there. I like how amazing that project is, and because I had never really volunteered in a way that I considered service. Like it had never clicked in my head the impact you can have, and how like that opened something up that I didn't know about myself. And so like literally that was last Tuesday, so we're what, 8 days away, and it was like, oh shit, this is a thing that I like when I was sitting there, I was like, oh, I should talk to Matthew about this, because I don't know if uh if the TFS knows about this, and about this organization, or because they partner with a lot of other groups, including some religious groups, and I was like, and they get a lot of help. And are you familiar with Oak City Cares?
I am not, but I'm smiling because I was just copying links that we at TFS, what we do a lot of services, like organize opportunities for our members to volunteer together,
Mhm.
and we do the food bank of Eastern North Carolina a lot. And right now we're in the midst of a virtual one where it's, instead of going to volunteer, they basically asking for money and asking for donations and stuff. So I was gonna throw the link around. Um, because I was going to say, I'm going to make you come out and volunteer with us because we do it. And then I was, oh wait, the one we're doing right now, like we planned for the winter, it might be bad weather. Instead of making it live, we planned a virtual one. So
Yeah.
we're in the midst of it.
Oh, that's cool. And I
Yeah,
will.
but I'll get the information for Oak City from you, because we definitely can add more to what we do.
Yeah, Oak City. So, I want to just go off on a tangent here for a minute about Oak City. But Oak City was telling, so they are not a homeless shelter, but what they do is they help, and they provide other services for homeless people, for food impoverished people, and for people on the verge of homelessness or food impoverishment. They'll help you. Right, they'll help you apply for food stamps, and get through the hoops of it, probably, and they help you get medical services and behavioral medical services, and yeah, right. They help remove the barriers to assistance. Alex, I'm repeating what you said because the audience can't hear you. Uh, okay, I just wanted you to think I'm not like parroting you to be weird. Um, they help remove those. They also, there was like they're constantly doing little. They every month did they say every month? I think it was month. It could have been quarter. They ask the people what they need Oak City Cares to do to help them, and so they do stuff like they'll have bankruptcy lawyers come out, or eviction lawyers come out, and they do like eviction um, presentations on like, these are your rights if you've been evicted, or if you're in the process of being evicted, these are your rights. And so they have a wide variety of ways that they help. It's and they do provide food, like they provide more weekend meals, but they also help provide showers. They provide laundry services. We saw people doing laundry. We saw, they have shower stalls.
I'm
You have
doing
20.
laundry.
But like the point being, like this was very utilized. And when they were talking to us, they also mentioned that other cities have sent in people to model. So I think they
Oh, so they're doing
mentioned
a really good job.
Florida cities that have done it, Alaskan cities, Charlotte, I don't remember. I think they said Orlando, but I could be wrong on that. But they like, this is Fayetteville. Durham is getting competitive and saying we're going to do even better, which is great. Yeah, be competitive. And they were encouraging of like, yeah, outdo us. You need it. Like, so it opened up something that, like, like I've always thought, like, it's important to do good for others, and it's important to help people less fortunate or who are in hard times. But I had never participated in it, and so like I didn't really get the like, oh, this is vital, like we need to work together. For all my borderline Marxist stuff that I talk about, I had not participated. And yep, and so that has helped flesh out my meaning of life. It added to, so I had the family, and then I have the artistic passions and dreams, and now I have my worldview as far as how I want to engage and improve the world. And obviously those things can be blended together.
That sounds delightful. What did you guys specifically do?
We sorted, so they had like, um they had soaps and body washes and shampoos and nail clippers, and there were these, I'm gonna totally fuck up the description of these, but they were like, to me, at first, before they told us what it was, I thought it was like maxi pads, but they're like super thin blankets that can, they're about this big, and then they're probably yay thick, and then, but if you open them up, they're these super thin blankets that will help keep you warm. They had hand warmers, anything that people would need at this time of year that are living out on the streets. We sorted them into different groups, so that they could be distributed properly.
That sounds cool. When we do the food bank, generally, it's you go there and you never know what you're gonna get. So, like one time I went just with Jacob. It wasn't with TFS, just Jacob and I went because we felt like volunteering, and it was dry goods, and it was stuff like that was donated. That was like groceries, not food, but like stuff from like pharmacies and grocery stuff that was just the non-food stuff. Like, so we're going through and basically sorting out, taking out anything that was medicine because they couldn't accept medicine as donations. So I take out any medicines, but like leaving it, like found condoms, and Jacob's like, "Do we keep these?" He was like 14 years old. I'm like, "Yeah, people need to have a good time safely. That gets kept.
Yeah.
And it was other fun stuff, but usually it's food stuff like donated from farms, and you're going through and taking like these mesh tubes, tying a knot in it, filling it with about 10 pounds of apples or whatever it is, and then tying a knot on the other side and putting it in the box. So you're making like sizes they can give out to families, and looking for the rotten stuff, looking for something that has worms or has rotten, and putting that in the discard pile. And when it's apples, it's delightful because, apples smell like apples, and that's lovely. When it's potatoes, potatoes smell like potatoes, which is fine, but rotten
Sometimes,
potatoes smell like very rotten potatoes. So once you get to the ones that are rotten and mushy or moldy, like you're discarding, and your finger sinks into it by accident because it's all mushy, you're like, I am not going to eat a potato for a year. And so at TFS, a lot of times it's potatoes when we go, and like we go out to eat afterwards, and like anyone who orders French fries gets scowled at. And one time when Jacob was in high school, we went and we were with a bunch of TFS people at this huge box of like, tons literally of potatoes, sorting them. And there's Jacob was we Jacob was going because he was in like high school honor society and needed to get volunteer hours, right? Like you were saying. And there was another parent and teenage child at our box who was not part of TFS. They were just there that day and randomly stood at our box that we happened to be at. And Jacob looks up and at one of my friends and goes, "How many potatoes does it take to kill an Irishman?" And guy goes, I don't know." And Jacob goes, "None, absolutely none." And we all laugh. And then one of my buddies like, "Did you just make a potato famine joke?" And Jacob's like, "Yup." and and the father and son just looked at each other like, who are these weird people that thought that was something you should laugh at? Like, like you did, Mike. Uh,
Yeah, I
but it's funny
laugh
because
at.
Jacob was also the quietest kid in the world. So the fact that he told that joke in front of everybody was just like monumental.
Nice. Well, speaking of inappropriate jokes, I want to talk about something real quick. This will be a patron. This is not at all related to them.
Yeah.
Well,
So
it's
I'm
related
sitting
to
at
every
home doing
sperm.
weird things to my dog with a fork, right? And
No, it's related to every sperm is sacred. So
that's a Steve Martin joke, by the way. I didn't write that.
great. So now we have something for the patrons. Also,
A little something for the patrons.
One of the last few a few episodes that we did, you and I kind of went on a slight, like a very short tangent about communism.
Here's some pussy for the patrons.
Pussy for the patrons. So we,
which is weird on the audio version of the podcast.
Yeah. Matthew's just showing his camera, especially because the patrons don't get the video version uncensored yet. But
it's one of my kitty cats.
If we get enough patrons, we will just release the uncensored video version too.
Release the hounds.
But we were talking about communism for like 30 seconds or something on one of the most recent episodes, and I was like, I think I'm going to cut this because we were so pro communism to some extent. I was like, I'm going to cut it. I'll just leave it for the $10 patrons. That's the least communist thing we can do, and it'll offset it. So Alex and I are the only ones who saw that, unless you saw it live, which
I saw a woman on TikTok recently who was talking about how pure capitalism only works if you sprinkle in some socialism. You need some socialist like safety nets.
Pure capitalism only works.
Right. Well, and pure communism doesn't work. Like the Soviet Union didn't handle it, and the way they came out of it was sprinkling in some capitalism. Like neither one of the systems work by themselves. They both need some of the things the other system has.
Yeah. I just like the pure capitalism only works when you cut it.
Yeah, you don't want to OD.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need that baking soda of communism in your pure capitalism.
Oh man, you got capitalism in my communism.
Nice. So, anyway, I went to Disney World this last weekend, and I was with Sarah's friends, and sometimes people talk over me a lot.
So anyway, I was thinking there's a really joke I used to love.
You are you're coming into this story. Don't worry. So some people talk over me, and when it's finally my turn to speak again, and I can finish my thought, I go, "So anyway," and I realize that that's more what I'm doing, and because someone called me out on it, she interrupted me, ranted for a minute and a half, and then I went, "So anyway," back to my point, and then she goes, "So anyway," like she was like kind of like taken aback.
Just dismissed everything I said.
And I was like, "Well, you interrupted me. You talked over me." And I was like, "Oh, that must be what I'm doing with Matthew." And I'm not even conscious of it. So anyway.
I say so. My favorite joke in high school was about the meaning of life.
Okay.
And so it was. I had a joke mentor, a friend of my dad who passed away years ago, but who used to tell a joke for, I don't know, half an hour. Like one time he started telling the joke on the way to a party we were going to. And every time he saw me during the party, he would talk for a couple of minutes more joke and didn't finish it till late that night. And like he was known for how long his jokes took. So he was telling this joke to me about, and everything was first person with him. It was always his story. He goes, so my cousin was business making $180,000 a year. And this is back in the 80s when that was a ton of money. He was really rolling in it, but he felt hollow. He felt hollow inside. So he went to his minister and he said, "Minister, I feel hollow inside. What's the meaning of life?" And the minister said, "Well, you can devote yourself to, Jesus or to good works." He goes, "No, I mean, but the real meaning of life." And he's like, "Actually, to be honest, I don't know. That's above my pay grade. So, sorry." So my cousin thinks for a while. He goes, "Well, you know what? I learned from the Transforming the Faith YouTube video that Protestantism is not as old as Catholicism. So I'll go ask a priest who dates back further and has more wisdom." So he asked the priest, and the priest is like, "Well, to be fair, I don't know the true meaning. I can give you things that will help you, but I don't know the true meaning of life. Only God knows that. I mean, but you could ask a rabbi. Their culture is older than ours. So he goes to a rabbi and he says, Rabbi, what is the meaning of life? And the rabbi says, it's hard to say. And he goes, no one's helping me. So he decides he's going to go to Europe, which is an older culture than America, and he will travel Europe until he finds the meaning of life. So he goes to Europe and he spends 10 years talking to different priests and rabbis and religious leaders and philosophers, and nobody's giving him what he needs. So he goes, you know what? Asian culture is older than um, European culture. I'm going to go to Asia. And he's traveling through Asia and he spends 10 years. So he's about 25 years of his life now searching for the meaning of life before he finds this one um, hermit who says, on top of this mountain is the ultimate Lama who can give you the meaning of life. But to go to him, you must go with nothing but what is on your back. Don't bring food, don't bring supplies. You must prove yourself and purify yourself climbing the mountain. No one has ever made it up the mountain. After most people turn back, and it takes a year to get up the mountain. So at 18 months, most people end up back at my door. And my cousin said, I'm going up the mountain. I'm going to find the Lama and I'm going to find out the meaning of life. So he starts up the mountain and he spends months and months and he spends a year climbing the mountain and eventually half dead and starving with no clothes left on his body, covered in scratches and scabs and hardly even bleeding anymore because of the cold and because of the coagulation of his previous wounds. He sees a small cave, and in front of the cave, a small fire, and in front of the fire, a wizened old man. And he crawls to the man, and the man helps sit him up, gives him some tea. He drinks of the tea, and the man says, my son, why have you come to me? And so my cousin says, please, please, I've been searching my entire life. What is the meaning of life? And the old man says, life, my son, is like a waterfall. And my cousin says, what? Life is like a waterfall. He goes, life's like a fucking waterfall? I spent 25 years of my life studying and searching and reading and talking to people and giving up stuff. I spent a year climbing this fucking mountain. I'm half dead, and you tell me life's like a waterfall? And the old man goes, maybe it's not.
What?
Just one of my favorite jokes in high school. Like if there was an absent teacher, I would tell that for the entire class period to someone, like for 41 minutes, and hit
That's
the
like a Norm
punchline,
Macdonald joke.
then get out the door before it was too late.
I would love to hear Norm Macdonald do it like that joke because he was great at the like dragging out like.
But. I don't know. I'll write it up, send it to Thomas Smith, and see if he'll record it. Closest we can get to Norm Macdonald.
Yeah. All right. I did have a different something came up while you were talking because that joke took almost as long as
I did the fast version.
So, does the meaning of life include after our lives? And I don't mean afterlife. I mean, does our legacy? Do we, and obviously it's different for everyone, but do we think personally that our legacy is part of our meanings of our lives?
I think it does, and for me indirectly. I mean, I think I want to do things in this world that make a positive impact, and that positive impact will last beyond. But I don't know if there's an active thing I need to do before I die. That's besides, like, I mean, I've raised children that I think will continue to make a positive. Like you talked about, my daughter is an activist, and she's trying. I will leave her behind to make a positive impact. I think that we met because you came to work for me at a in vitro diagnostics company. Because as I often say, and I said on LinkedIn today, I am not smart enough to be a doctor, so I can't save people's lives. But I've always worked in healthcare where the skills I do have go towards helping the greater mission for public health and public good, to help doctors and laboratories make the right decisions for the right treatments to help prolong people's lives, which, you know, in the long run definitely goes into the future because those people continue to live lives and hopefully make a positive impact.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
that's why I don't work in marketing for a chocolate company. I've been in vitro diagnostics for 8 years. And hey, everyone, I'm going to give you a little special announcement here. Hope no one from work's listening. I quit my job So I'm going back to pharma, and I'm going to work for an HIV company and work on marketing and communicating to doctors and maybe to patients. I don't know exactly what my role will be yet. The proper use and the proper time to use which HIV med versus which other one to help people, do more, live longer, feel better.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm very happy, for you. And I think that when I worked at your current about to be former company, I don't know.
I'll say the name after the day after my last day.
When I
Not
worked
that, I don't think
there,
there's any rules that we can't say our name, because in social media we're supposed to write, my views are my own. They are not the views of our company.
When I worked there, it was obviously I made a good friend there, but Lenny.
Oh, Remy.
Remy, yeah. Oh, I should have said Remy, not Lenny. I really liked pretty much everybody that I worked with there. But obviously I made, business partner, podcast co-host, and guy who will beat the shit out of me, to beat me to death for liking pineapple pizza or disliking pineapple pizza.
The irony is so strong with that one.
I know, because I am a pineapple pizza guy and you're not. But like, in addition to that, I mean, I just took a temp job that needed somebody with an English degree, and I got this temp job, and in addition to the obvious, connection with you, it was a company that helped diagnose sepsis earlier than other tests. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, I don't know that Sarah was ever specifically diagnosed with sepsis when after Logan was born, but like Sarah had Sarah, almost died and had a huge crisis of like medical crisis, and if it wasn't sepsis, it was fucking close, and it was I don't know that a specific bacteria type becomes sepsis, so I'm
sepsis technically is your body's overreaction to the infection. So
okay,
you have that infection, and the sepsis is your body's response to the infection.
Right, and she had that, and in the process of working there, I was like, it was just really amazing that I got thrown into this job where I met a guy who likes all the same shit as me, and the company does this thing that would help save people who were in the same situation my wife had been in, and I remember, I got to talk to, I helped film stuff with doctors giving testimony, and so I would talk, and I got to talk to some doctors and be like, hey, you're from the area. If my wife had this issue, like, what hospitals would you recommend going to? So like, I knew I've been told what hospitals are the best hospitals if to avoid those issues if Sarah has another baby. So we know like which hospitals have those tests, and so it was this great thing to just get to experience. And I've never I've had a lot of good jobs and I've enjoyed a lot of jobs. I've never had fulfillment the way that I had at.
It's the cream pie of jobs.
It really is. You just want to just finish in there and just like
a Little Debbie oatmeal cream pie and cake. It's just tasty and delicious, and as cookies, and yeah.
And then after you're done, you just lick the cream out.
And then pass it to somebody else so they can enjoy it too.
It's gonna be so many cream pie clips. Can't wait to see what Alex makes us for some
He's gonna make a whole subreddit.
So, as far as my answer to the after our lives thing, mine's similar to yours. I think that I want to leave the world better than I found it. I don't give a shit if I'm remembered for that. I think that Logan is a better person than I am so far. And I hope that he continues to be, and I hope he makes a better impact. But the fact that I got to help bring him into the world will be part of that. But if Logan does some amazing shit and they never talk about Logan's father, I'll be okay with that. If if I somehow working at that other job was able to help even like one person's life, and they maybe even I don't even know about the
Right.
impact that I'm going to have, I'm okay with that, as long as I try to have a positive effect, that the world is better for me having been here, and nobody knows it, I'm okay with it. So
Because I won't know. So what's the difference?
you won't know.
I mean, like after I'm gone, I won't know if anyone knows that I made a difference.
Oh, I thought you meant
So
you
it
won't
doesn't
know
make
that
a
I
difference.
made a difference.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
know you made a difference. I know you made the world worse. It's funny.
I thought you were just
Jacob's
implying because you're going
godfather
to die
used to say,
first because you're
well,
older. I went way darker with it.
"Yeah, we'll see." I have a new business where I rent out a bus and um, so when Jacob was young and it became obvious that he is beyond brilliant, his godfather used to say that he's either going to save the world or destroy it. Depends on what he chooses to do with his power. And we've been watching the Robert Jordan Wheel of Time adaptation on Amazon, the Wheel of Time story, and that's about the dragon reborn, and then the prophecies the dragon will either destroy the world, break the wheel, or save it.
Nice.
So that's Jacob. So far, he's coding on websites. He's not damaging anything, and he's teaching, university classes. So he's teaching the next generation.
That's cool. That's yeah. By the way, I was thinking about it when you were talking earlier. It is because I think we mentioned it a couple weeks ago that obviously, like, Jacob's your child, the person in your family that I know the least. But other than you, he's the person I met first. And I remembered, like, oh yeah, before we started doing videos together, I randomly ran in and I was like, I've seen that kid's face all over Matthew's
I hear
computer, and
someone speaking German in the grocery store. That
and I
must be
walked. Yeah,
Matthew's son.
he was talking German, and he looked like the picture, and I was like, are you Matthew's son? And he was like, yeah. I forgot about that until you
Yeah,
started saying
yeah.
something.
We ran into his German teacher at the grocery store. So he and his German teacher were talking, and I just went away and kept shopping, like he
And
was home from college or whatever.
that was before the pineapple pizza video. So that was before the birth of
Early
this
days.
great partnership.
That was just your boss.
Yeah. Anyway, do you have any last thoughts on the meaning of life? Because I'm getting
I think
hungry.
life is what you make of it. Or to quote the great Tom Lear, life is like a sewer. What you get out of it depends on what you put into it.
Nice. That is, I like him. He's still alive, right? He's going to be pushing 100, right?
He might still be alive. I mean, I know like 10 years ago he was still teaching.
Oh, he was still alive last time I looked, which was in COVID. I'm pretty sure he hasn't died yet. I'm looking him up right now. Yeah,
Wikipedia says 95 years old.
yeah, yeah. I so I like. I'm gonna just go into a Tom Lehrer rant for a second. I've watched a few things where Werner von Braun is a character within, and mostly, it's
Oppenheimer, right?
his time in NASA. Was he in
I don't
Oppenheimer?
know. I'm asking. I didn't see
No.
Oppenheimer,
He
but
was
right,
in.
right
So
thing.
if you ever watch For All Mankind, which I
I've not
highly
seen that.
recommend, he's in the first season. He's a character in that, um, and he's in other stuff, and he was in the Nazi was Hunters, the Nazi show where they hunt Nazis down and kill them. Al Pacino and
Yeah,
Logan
yeah.
Lerman.
I
So
like uplifting stuff like that.
yeah, I recommend both those shows. They're both good, but uh, there there is an implication that the general public did not know, and I guess that there's a heavy. A lot of people did not know that he was he was working with the Nazi Party before coming to America.
Nazi schmazi.
And then you hear Tom Lehrer's song about him, and you're like, "How the fuck did you not know?"
Nazi
like this
schmazi.
guy was doing a song about it in
1968.
1968 exactly,
That
and
was the year that was.
it's the year before the moon landing. So
Yeah. His name is Werner von Braun.
Yeah.
Once the rockets go up, who cares where they come down? That's not my department, says Werner von Braun.
Yeah, it's a great song. Also, I love as a kid. I think Alex will relate to this more than you will, Matthew. But as a kid of the 80s and 90s, I was a big fan of the Animaniacs. And for those who don't know about Werner von Braun, sorry, not Werner von Braun. For those who don't know about Tom Lehrer, he is the inspiration because he did a song. Was it The Elements?
It was all the elements to the tune of Modern Major General.
Yeah, and Wacko or Yakko does all of the countries and all of the states, two different clips of to the same tune. The Olivia, I don't remember the order of them, or I would do it, but like and like it goes through the whole thing, and so for many of us Animaniac children, it was is that an Animaniacs cup? I thought it was for a second.
I'm in the wrong room. I have an Animaniacs tape dispenser in my other office.
Yeah. Also, I like that it's the Warner Brothers and Dot because it's WB Dot.
Yeah, WB Dot.
Just kind of like how we have
WB
chocolate,
Bros Dot. Yeah.
chocolate, diamond, media. Because Matthew's the media.
Yeah.
According to Matthew.
Chocolate. Yeah, exactly. I own the media.
The Jew. So my
it's great is that Alex saying it in context is not in the audio, but you just saying the Jew is
the Jew. There was one of the clips that Alex started to edit, and then it kind of disappeared, and I didn't see it. Was our neutral Semitism was the name of one of the clips, and I was like, "Oh, I want that clip." And then I went to go download the clip, and it was gone, and I was like, "Fuck, that's neutral Semitism would have been a good, fun clip to post." So anyway, my last thoughts on the meaning of life are, I think that obviously it differs for everybody, but it's really it's less important that you find the meaning of life and more important that you look for it. And that's cliched, but it's true. Sometimes cliches are cliches for a reason. So with that, let's
well, I'll disagree just so we can have disagreement.
Sure.
I think it's more important than there being a meaning in life is that you make meaning in your life.
Sure, I agree with that too.
You don't shore me. You stick with your take. That's why we get finished in 10 minutes because you just agree with each other. And we don't stick to our guns. So you can look for your goddamn meaning. I'm going to make my goddamn meaning. You go buy it pre-made, off a shelf. Meanings are us. Whatever the hell you want to do. I'm going to get in the kitchen. I'm going to roll my sleeves up. I'm going to wear short sleeves, whatever. And I'm going to make meaning. And it's going to be delicious and homemade. And I'll do it with a fucking accent.
I started this podcast because I wanted to have good conversations with people who I admired, respected.
Well, too bad you got me.
And so sometimes that means that when I don't have anything to push back on, when you make a good point, I'm not going to disagree just to disagree because I can
learn the goddamn formula.
All right. So, anyway, let's go to the plugging. Matthew.
Plugging then cream pie sounds like a deal.
Yeah, I actually feel like it will make me feel really full, which since I'm getting hungry is good. If anybody wanted to find this podcast on, actually, if you're watching live right now and you've enjoyed this podcast, we will be going live typically every Tuesday at 6:30. Occasionally, a guest will request a different time or something else will happen. Sometimes we skip a week because we do a double. But typically 6:30 on Tuesday, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays on Facebook and on YouTube. we would love it if you like and subscribe, follow our Facebook page, do all those things to be able to access the live version. If you're listening to the podcast pre-recorded and edited, there's a few things that we would also like that would be great if you could do. We would like it if you would hit like, give us a thumbs up, give us a review or a rating, however your particular podcast app works. Matthew likes to point out that you should go on iTunes and or the Apple Podcast and do it regardless of whether or not you're using Apple Podcasts.
You can log in on your desktop. You don't need the app.
And because they are probably one of the bigger markets, but also Spotify. There's so many ways to get it, and they all have
all the menu to cream pie. I'm sorry. Go do your call to action. Go.
There's gonna be so much edit. It's like
everybody loves a cream pie, Mike. Face it.
I'm leaving some of the. I'm gonna have to just leave some of the cream pie in.
You have to leave some of it in. You had to get it all out. I mean, you could try peeing, but I mean, there's only so much you can get out.
Jesus Christ, Matthew! It's so hard to keep going.
It is hard, but that's
so. Anyway, if you want to support the show, or if you're watching us on YouTube.
Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe.
I was doing really fucking good before you started interrupting.
Tell us about a topic you want us to cover in the comments. Make a comment about how much you like Little Debbie's cream pie. Whatever you want to do. If you're listening on Apple, hit follow on Apple. Give us a 5-star review. Like we said, you can just go to iTunes and do that without even being an actual iTunes user. Hey, if you are an Apple iTunes user, though, you can subscribe to this podcast for $1 a month, and you'll get every episode 4 days earlier. You'll know about the cream pie before anyone on your blog.
Yeah, and if you would like to support us monetarily in another way other than just the $1 Apple one, you can go on patreon.com/talking about the big stuff. We have a $1 option, which gets you the regular version of the show 4 days early on Mondays.
Just like on Apple.
And if you want a little bit more of the naughty stuff, it's $3. And then if you want you want us to just leave it in till that thing stops spurting, then you can go and get the $10 cream pie extravaganza Patreon. So, yeah. I want to just say for all you audience members that if you want to see Matthew bully me less on the trade show, where he interrupts my the best take that I've ever done of the stuff, and then bullies me about the fact that I can't get back into my rhythm. Comment that in any of the formats. We would be happy to hear that.
I love how he says that as if he was doing it well.
I was doing it well.
You'll never know because it'll be edited out, so you'll never know.
Yeah, it'll be edited out because of cream pie.
He's like, Mike's like, hey, if you like the world's best podcast, go ahead and follow us.
If you
Mike,
enjoy,
that's not even what we're called. You don't even know the name.
Did I say the world's best podcast this time?
No, but you could have.
Oh, I was going to say I haven't done that in so long. Anyway, talking about the big stuff. So, Matthew,
I just want to, before we go, thank everyone for coming here to talk about the big stuff with us. It gives our lives meaning.
The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.